Hello and welcome to the live stream here on LinkedIn and on YouTube, Selling for Creatives. This is where we get real about how to sell in a way that actually feels good and works. So quick heads up for those of you who are new, this is going to be interactive. We will be doing a Q&A at the end, and we might even have time for a hot seat. If you've got any questions or you want to be coached live, drop it in the chat at any time, and we'll be watching the chat as we go through this live in order to answer any questions you may have. And just starting off, you can drop into the chat where you're tuning in from. You can let me know what's something that you have written in your bio, proposal, headline, portfolio that didn't exactly land the way that you would like. And just to start off, I mean, a personal story from myself. One of my clients that I was working with kept obsessing over their portfolio. This was, of course, before we had worked together. They were tweaking it constantly, more testimonials, cleaner design, better language. And they kept thinking to themselves, if I can just prove that I'm good enough, then I'll get the sale. But it wasn't working. And the reason is because the problem wasn't experience, it was clarity, right? A lot of times we confuse this idea of experience is going to take me over the finish line. And the real question your buyer is actually asking is this the right thing for me right now? And if your message doesn't answer that really quickly, they're going to nod politely and they're going to move on, right? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jakob Steinberg. I am a sales coach for creatives, helping agency owners and solopreneurs land high-value clients without feeling like a salesperson. When I first started this about 5.5 years ago now, I saw creative agency owners and solopreneurs are amazing at their craft, but they run into two common struggles. Feast or famine in sales, so they'd get clients, but it would be inconsistent. One month they could be booked solid, the next they're scrambling for leads. Selling just feels awkward. They don't want to sound pushy. Being nice isn't exactly helping them either. And although they're really great at their work, not having that clear sales process holds them back. So they're stuck working project to project, relying on word of mouth, and simply hoping for the best. And the shift that I'm creating with them isn't just so they learn how to sell, it's so that they learn how to position themselves so clients are coming to them. It's mastering sales without feeling salesy, clarifying their offer and their sales process, and building real confidence in how they sell. So they know who they need to talk to, where to find them, what to say, and how to say it, all without feeling like they are chasing clients. I've had the pleasure of working with some amazing creatives and entrepreneurs, including Chaya Fishman, Hoodie Greenberger, and Ellie Bosch, just to name a few. And thank God, agencies and seven-figure owners that I've worked with, seven-figure business owners that I've worked with have been able to grow by even 50% in as little as 60 days. $100,000 level businesses, give or take, have been able to grow even 150% growth in 60 to 90 days. And new solopreneurs, even 200 to 240% in as little as 45 days. At the end of this, I always tell people, it brings my three passions together of sales, teaching, and helping people, but not necessarily in that order. And one of the reasons, for those of you who are asking yourselves, why is it that every single time Yaakov does, whether his podcast or the live, that I give what I call my context pitch, what I had just given you? And the answer lies in exactly what we're going to talk about today. It's all about messaging and giving people the perception you want them to have and the perception they need to have to be able to look at you as the potential solution that they might be looking for. So let's get into the teaching. Oh, and I should also point out, because if you haven't given people a reason to look at you as the authority and expert that you are, they're not going to listen to anything you have to say. So right before the teaching is when we do that. So let's get into the teaching. We're going to talk about the three biggest messaging mistakes I see creatives making and how they quietly kill amazing offers. So let's get right into it. Mistake number one is leading with process. Okay, so this happens when you tell them what you do instead of why it matters to them. So one of the biggest mistakes could sound like, if I give it an example, I help creatives improve their sales process. Okay, if I would use myself as the example, versus I help creative solopreneurs sell with clarity and confidence without sounding salesy, right? So the fits there is that I'm leading with the transformation. I'm making it about them, not just what it is that I do, right? So it will be the same for yourself. Lead with the transformation you are creating. Make it about your client, not just what you are going to do for them. Max says that he is not a creative, but loves the style, and that's why I'm here. Max, I greatly appreciate you. Thank you very, very much. It means a lot to me that you are here. And yeah, the amazing thing is that when you are clear about what you do, people can say, well, listen, I don't really fit into what you're talking about. I'm not a creative, but maybe you can help me, right? And you'd be amazed. It's funny. I probably have more non-creatives that I've worked with than actual creatives. But let's go further. So mistake number two, assuming they'll get it. Okay, so a lot of people use buzzwords. They're using industry terms. They want to show a polished portfolio, and they're just going to assume that people are going to connect the dots. The problem is that buyers aren't trying to figure you out. They're scanning for one thing. Does this solve my problem? So how do we fix it? Make the problem and the result super clear. Your message should feel like a yes or no, not a riddle, right? So again, when I spoke earlier about myself, I right away in that first line of what we call the context pitch, I said that I'm helping agency owners and solopreneurs land high value clients without feeling like a salesperson, right? The result is extremely important to people, right? You want people to be able to feel and understand where they're going, right? So a lot of my clients, they go from I hate selling, it feels awkward, to I have a simple, repeatable process that works, or I'm waiting for referrals, to I know exactly how to generate demand for my work. When I'm in a call, I actually tell people that a lot of my clients say these things because I want them to feel the transformation and I want them to have a clear understanding of the result we're leaning towards. They need to go, that's exactly what my problem is. You are in my head, reading my mind. And we can get this clearly when you have a really clear understanding of who it is that you're working with. We're going to drop up a tangent here, but Marcus Chan talks about what he calls the whisperer test. You can walk into a restaurant, walk over to someone who you know is your ideal client and say to them, hey, I'm over there sitting on that table. I know that X is keeping you up at night. Z is really just stressing you out. And F is just making you want to quit. If you need anything, if you want to have this conversation, I'm right here. No pressure, right? The likelihood of them standing up is extremely high. You are in their head. They want to understand, how have you read their mind? How do you get them to such a deep degree? Okay. Messaging mistake number 3, framing capabilities instead of outcomes. Okay. A lot of people, when it comes to their bio, their proposals, their LinkedIn headline, They all list the things that you can do, but the problem is that versatility doesn't sell. Clarity does. So again, how do we fix this? We want to frame it around what they get. Sell without feeling salesy. Sell in a way that feels like you, right? It's one of the things that we do here in Selling for Creatives. We're getting real how to sell in a way that feels good and works, right? So we want a clear understanding of what's going on, right? So frame it around what they get, not what you offer. You could paint a picture of the before and after that they care about, right? That's a great way of going about that. And super important thing to keep in mind, when your message shifts from impressive to irresistible, that's when buyers start reaching out and start moving forward. Not because of what you do, but because of how clearly they see themselves in the result of what you do, right? And that's a very big shift that a lot of people are waiting for. So let's open it up to Q&A. Really, I would like to hear from you. What part of your messaging maybe feels fuzzy? Where do you get stuck explaining what you do? Is it a proposal line that you want help tweaking your bio, whatever it might be? And you could drop your copy in the chat. I'll do a live rewrite or coach you through it. Again, we have an option for a hot seat. We definitely have time for it. So raise your hand. I'll bring you in. I'll send you the invite. No problem. And just while we're waiting for that to happen, let's just get into some real life examples. So while you're putting those questions in, an example of a client that I had recently who was really doing amazing work, but their proposals kept getting polite maybes. They weren't moving people forward. It was really hurting them. And initially they thought maybe the issue was pricing, okay? And all we had to do was change the way they spoke about themselves, right? That context pitch I mentioned earlier, that's really where you make it absolutely clear to the client, and you're making sure that they hear what they need to hear as well, right? So there are 4 steps to that context pitch, just to run you through really quickly, and you can find that context pitch in my profile in the experience section under Jakob Steinberg Sales Coaching. Right there at the bottom, one of the things that you can download is the context pitch. There's a PDF there, actually has a link to a Google document that you can fill out for yourself to do it in real time right there. But ultimately, there are 4 steps to a good context pitch. 1, what is it that you do in a clear, succinct, buzz-free way? Number 2, a story that's going to bring in the relevancy, the pain, and the solution. Again, relevancy, pain, and solution that people need to connect with. They need to feel themselves in your story. When you tell a story, human beings love stories. They'll connect to you in a whole different level. Number 3 is going to be that social proof, okay? Being able to name drop people that you have worked with that people will recognize is extremely important. And number 4 is that impact and results, right? And that is going to help people to understand that clear outcome, right? So when I worked together with this client, we went from something like, we provide full service design for web and branding, right? And we made it about the client and what they needed to hear. The next proposal, it got a yes extremely quickly. I believe it could have even been in a couple of hours, because ultimately the message made the result obvious, right? Clarity beats capability every single time. And again, if you want help writing a headline, a bio, an intro message, whatever it is, drop it into the chat. We could do that together live, or you could just as well say that you would like to jump on here with me, and we can do it together. So let's just take a look over here. Max coming in from Borough Park, selling IT and tech. Appreciate you being here. Max Rubin. Awesome. Okay, so we're just going to give it another minute or 2 over here. Again, if there are no requests to jump into a hot seat, we will end early. If there are no questions, again, same idea. It could be that things are just crystal clear on this. It would be wonderful if that's the reason that there are no questions here. Again, we do have people here live. No pressure whatsoever about whether or not there are going to be questions here. This is just mainly about the teaching. The Q&A and the hot seat are to just enhance the process. So while we're waiting another couple of seconds here, just to make a soft offer, as it were. Your offer can be really, really solid, but if for whatever reason your messaging feels off, this could be for you. I mentioned in the past, I'm going to do it again this week. I'm going to open up just 2 slots for messaging tune-up calls, what I'm going to call. It's for people watching the live, catching the replay in the next 24 hours. You could message me on LinkedIn. You could put a message on the live itself. Even afterwards, it will be a post, and we're going to take your current pitch, your proposal, your positioning, whatever it is that you are struggling with, and we will sharpen it. So buyers have a clear understanding, have that clarity. They get it and they want it. You can just drop the word tune in the chat, like I said, or DM me after the live. And like I said, there's just 2 slots for that. It'll be a 45-minute conversation. So first come, first served. Max Rubin in here again. I don't want to go off topic, but I want to schedule a one-on-one. Max, appreciate you. Absolutely. It would be a pleasure. I will message you right after the live. Appreciate that you love the style and that you need help selling tech. It's definitely nuanced. There's a lot there. I've been in the tech space myself. My first real sales job was actually selling SaaS, software as a service, for those who don't know. And I did that for 3.5 years. That's really where I got my start in sales, built myself up in the classic sales sense. So I'd love to have that conversation with you, help you out. Again, if you have something specific you want to go through, happy to do it here on the live, Max. Otherwise, we can wait till afterwards if you want it to be a little just between the 2 of us. No pressure, no problem whatsoever. And we will connect after the fact. Okay, great. It seems that... How do you remember when you're selling all the points you're saying? That's a great question. So let's jump into that. So if you want to elaborate when you're OB, just to elaborate what that means, Max, for me, I appreciate you. So there's a lot of different parts around what it is that each and every single one of us does. Okay. And one of the biggest things that people struggle with is they feel like they need to remember every single little thing. And the reality is that if you're following a clear plan, you have a plan, you've created that plan. It could be a script. It could be some questions. It could be a way that you're going through the call. The way I go through my discovery calls is the 6 steps of the discovery call. That is also a document that can be downloaded as a PDF off of that same experience section I mentioned earlier. And ultimately, what you're really trying to do isn't memorizing all the questions. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to forget things. Have it written out. Have that map that's going to keep you in place as you go through whatever it is. I myself, I'm not doing this on the fly, right? I want to make sure that I get to all the points that I have. I've written out somewhat of a live script for myself. It's the same thing, even if I'm going to do my context pitch. Yes, can I do it by heart? Absolutely. But there are plenty of times, whether I'm in a discovery call, whether I am on a live or even on a podcast, where I will just go through it right there on a document I've created for myself, more just for a point of reference, a place that I can go back to, check, make sure that I hit all of the things that I want to talk about as I am discussing a topic, as I am just going over a piece of teaching or whatever it might be. So whether you're on the phone, whether you're in a Zoom call, as Max pointed out here to further elaborate on his question, those are all places that, as someone who is in sales for many years, it's very easy for us to fall into the trap of thinking that we remember all the questions we need to ask. And then all of a sudden we get off the call and we're like, oh, shoot, I forgot to ask this. And it could be a really important question. And it's not that you didn't remember it because it wasn't important, right? It could just be that it slipped your mind or whatever it was. You got sidetracked by something and forgot it. Having a discovery call companion sheet, which is one of the things I do with my own clients, past just the 6 steps. We actually create a companion sheet that allows them to have everything there on one page, from their opener to open-ended questions, their context pitch, and really making sure that they have that full process completely blown out, able to take notes and go through whatever they need. So it's really a matter of, having that clarity on what it is that you want to accomplish, making sure that you plan it properly, and going through that. Amazing. I'm so happy I answered your question, Max. I'm definitely looking forward to speaking to you after the live. To everyone else here, I appreciate you tremendously for joining us here live. Again, we are here in order to help creatives and businesses alike to be able to get real about how we're selling in a way that really feels good, not just for us, but for everybody involved in the process. Having that true servant leadership with being able to really have the perception, comprehension, and projection necessary for that everybody involved is comfortable, happy, feels good about the process, and it works. So thank you very much for joining me today. Greatly appreciate each and every single one of you for coming on and giving me your special time during this 30 minutes that we were able to go through the live today on how your portfolio doesn't sell, but this does. Please let me know after the fact what it is that you were able to take out of this, if there was something that you used specifically that helped you to change things, or if you just want some help. I don't bite, even though my logo might be 3 wolves. Feel free to send me a message, send me a DM, send me a comment on the live if we're not connected, and I will connect with you, and I'm happy to help you in any way that I can. Take care, and until next time, great rest of your day. Bye-bye.